The rain pounded against the windows like an angry fist as James Parker stared into Eliza Montgomery's eyes, his voice barely a whisper. "If you stay tonight, I might lose control." The billionaire heiress stepped closer, her designer dress soaked from the storm, and placed her hand on his stubbled cheek. "Then lose control, James. I'm not going anywhere." Her answer silenced him completely, and changed everything. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that will touch your heart. Your support means everything to us. James never expected his life to intersect with someone like Eliza Montgomery. As a single father working 2 jobs to keep a roof over his daughter Lily's head, the world of high society and billion-dollar empires existed only in the movies they watched together on their worn-out couch. But fate has a peculiar way of bringing unlikely souls together when they need each other most. 3 months earlier, James had been rushing through his morning routine, already late for his shift at the diner. 6-year-old Lily sat at their small kitchen table, her cereal growing soggy as she concentrated on drawing a picture. "Daddy, I finished your portrait," she announced proudly, holding up a colorful crayon drawing. James smiled despite his exhaustion, the dark circles under his eyes testament to another night spent worrying about bills. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. The best one yet." He kissed the top of her head, inhaling the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "Mrs. Wilson will be here any minute to take you to school. Be good today, okay?" Lily nodded solemnly. "I'm always good, Daddy." "That you are, my little sunshine." His heart ached with love for her. Since Emma had died 3 years ago, Lily had become his entire world, his reason to keep fighting when everything seemed impossible. The diner where James worked mornings was nothing special, just a local spot called Rosie's where regulars came for decent coffee and better conversation. He'd been there 4 years now, and the owner, Rosie herself, treated him like family. His afternoon job at the auto repair shop paid better, but the flexible morning hours at the diner allowed him to be home when Lily returned from school. That particular Tuesday started like any other, until the sleek black Bentley pulled up outside. James was refilling coffee mugs when the bell above the door chimed, and a woman walked in who seemed entirely out of place in their humble establishment. Eliza Montgomery stood in the entrance, her tailored business suit and perfect posture immediately marking her as someone from another world. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, emphasizing her sharp cheekbones and intelligent eyes. She glanced around with an expression that wasn't quite disdain but certainly suggested she rarely frequented places with laminated menus. "Table for one?" James asked, approaching with a coffee pot and his standard friendly smile. She looked at him, really looked at him, in a way that made him feel simultaneously seen and exposed. "Yes, thank you. Somewhere quiet, if possible." He led her to a corner booth, away from the morning rush crowd. "Coffee? Please." She accepted the menu with a slight nod. "I've heard this place has excellent blueberry pancakes." James couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. "You've heard about Rosie's pancakes?" A hint of a smile touched her lips. "I make it my business to know about excellent things, regardless of where they're found." There was something in her voice, a weariness beneath the polished exterior, that resonated with him. He found himself lingering at her table longer than necessary, making small talk as she ordered those famous pancakes. What James didn't know then was that Eliza Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Industries and one of the wealthiest women in the country, had just walked out of a board meeting where her own brother had attempted to orchestrate her removal from the company their father had built. She had come to Rosie's not because of the pancakes, but because it was the first place she spotted after driving aimlessly for an hour, trying to clear her head. The pancakes arrived, and James watched with unexpected satisfaction as genuine pleasure crossed her face at the first bite. "These are indeed excellent," she admitted. "Sometimes the simplest things are the most perfect." "My daughter says the same thing," James replied. "She's 6 and thinks pancakes are the solution to most of the world's problems." "Smart girl." Eliza's expression softened. What's her name? Lily. After her mother's favorite flower. Something flickered in Eliza's eyes. And her mother? Passed away. Cancer. 3 years ago. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken understanding. James hadn't meant to share something so personal with a stranger, but there was something about this woman that made the truth slip out easily. "I'm sorry," she said, and unlike the hollow sympathy he'd grown accustomed to, her words carried genuine weight. "Thank you." He gestured toward the coffee pot. "I should get back to work." She nodded, but as he turned to leave, she spoke again. "I lost my father last year. It's different, I know. He was older, it was expected. But grief is grief, isn't it? It changes the landscape of your life completely." James paused, struck by the raw honesty in her voice. "Yes. Exactly that." Their eyes met in a moment of perfect understanding before he returned to his duties. When she left an hour later, she'd tipped him an amount that made him think she'd misplaced a decimal point, along with a business card with her personal number scribbled on the back. "If you ever need anything," she'd said simply, and then she was gone, leaving James to wonder if he'd imagined the entire encounter. He hadn't expected to see her again. People like Eliza Montgomery didn't typically return to places like Rosie's. But the following week, she was back, requesting the same booth and the same server. The pancakes were memorable, she explained with that same hint of a smile. "I thought they deserved a second chance to impress me." This time, she stayed longer. They talked more, brief exchanges whenever James could step away from other customers. He learned she ran her family's company, that she lived alone in a penthouse downtown, that despite her wealth, she often felt isolated in ways that money couldn't fix. She learned about Lily, about James's struggles to provide for her, about his dreams of someday opening his own garage. Simple dreams, but meaningful ones. On her third visit, she arrived just as his shift was ending. "Perfect timing," she said. "Perhaps you could join me today? As a customer rather than a server." James hesitated. "I need to pick up Lily from school soon." "Of course." Was that disappointment in her eyes? "Another time, perhaps." He surprised himself by saying, "Actually, Lily would probably love those pancakes too. If you wouldn't mind company that includes a very talkative 6-year-old. That was how Eliza Montgomery, Billionaire CEO, ended up sharing blueberry pancakes with James and Lily Parker in a corner booth at Rosie's Diner. Lily, with a child's natural ability to disregard social barriers, immediately bombarded Eliza with questions about her shoes, her job, and whether she had a dog. "No dog," Eliza admitted. "My apartment doesn't allow pets." Lily looked genuinely horrified. "But that's so sad. Everyone needs a dog. Or at least a fish." "Lily," James warned gently, but Eliza was laughing, a real laugh that transformed her face completely. "You're absolutely right," she told Lily seriously. "It is sad. Perhaps I should move." As they ate, James noticed how Eliza seemed to relax in Lily's presence. The rigid posture softened, the carefully measured responses gave way to genuine conversation. When Lily pulled out her crayons and offered to draw Eliza a portrait, the woman accepted with surprising enthusiasm. "No one has drawn my picture since I was about your age," she told Lily. "Then you're way overdue," Lily declared, setting to work with intense concentration. James watched them, a strange feeling settling in his chest. There was something both beautiful and painful about seeing Lily interact so naturally with another woman. Since Emma died, there had been no maternal figure in her life besides occasional visits from Emma's sister and the elderly Mrs. Wilson who watched her after school. When Lily presented the finished portrait, Eliza with an impossibly wide smile and extremely long eyelashes, the billionaire accepted it as though receiving a priceless gift. "This is going in my office," she announced. "Right next to my business awards." Lily beamed with pride, and James felt a surge of gratitude toward this woman who treated his daughter's artwork with such respect. As they prepared to leave, Eliza hesitated. "I have tickets to the Children's Museum exhibition this weekend. It's the interactive dinosaur one that's been all over the news." She glanced at Lily, whose eyes had grown wide with excitement. "I was given them for a business associate's family, but perhaps you two would enjoy them more?" "Dinosaurs!" Lily exclaimed before James could respond. "Daddy, can we go? Please." James looked at Eliza suspiciously. "That's very generous, but I'd be going too," she added quickly. "If that's all right. I've actually been wanting to see it myself." The idea of a billionaire CEO spending her Saturday looking at animatronic dinosaurs seemed improbable, but the sincerity in her eyes made James reconsider his assumption. "We'd love to," he found himself saying, and the smile that lit up her face was worth any awkwardness he might feel about accepting her generosity. That museum visit marked the beginning of something none of them could have anticipated. Over the following weeks, Eliza became a regular presence in their lives. She joined them for pizza nights and playground visits. She attended Lily's school play, sitting beside James and cheering just as loudly when Lily delivered her one line as the third tree from the left. For James, the relationship was both wonderful and terrifying. Eliza fit into their lives with surprising ease, bringing joy to Lily and companionship to him that he hadn't realized how desperately he needed. But the differences between them loomed large in his mind: the wealth gap, their different worlds, the inevitable complications. "Why does it matter how much money she has?" Rosie asked him one morning as he confessed his concerns. "That girl looks at you like you hung the moon, James Parker. And Lily adores her." "It's not that simple," he argued. "People like us don't end up with people like her." Rosie snorted. "Says who? Those romance novels my sister reads tell me different." But real life wasn't a romance novel, and James knew it. Still, he couldn't deny the feelings growing between them. The way Eliza's hand would occasionally brush against his, lingering just a moment too long. The late-night conversations after Lily went to bed, talking about everything and nothing until the early hours. The way she looked at him sometimes, when she thought he wasn't noticing. For Eliza, James and Lily represented something her wealth had never been able to buy: authenticity. A genuine connection untainted by ulterior motives. In her world, relationships came with agendas, with people always wanting something from the Montgomery fortune or influence. James wanted nothing from her except her company, and that was refreshingly novel. The crisis came 2 months into their friendship, when Eliza's brother Richard escalated his attempts to take control of Montgomery Industries. He leaked stories to the press questioning her leadership, her commitment to the company, even her mental stability following their father's death. "He's using my time with you and Lily against me," she admitted one evening, showing James the tabloid headline suggesting she was distracted by a new romance and neglecting her responsibilities. James felt sick reading the articles, which painted him as either a gold digger or a charity case, depending on the publication. "I'm so sorry, Eliza. This is exactly what I was afraid of." "Don't you dare apologize," she said fiercely. "Richard has been trying to undermine me since our father named me CEO instead of him. He'd find something to use against me regardless. At least this time, what he's attacking is something that actually makes me happy." The admission hung between them, neither quite ready to address its implications. "What will you do?" James asked finally. Eliza squared her shoulders, the businesswoman replacing the friend for a moment. "Fight back. I've been too passive, trying to keep family matters private. But if Richard wants a public battle, I'll give him one." The following weeks were difficult. Eliza was consumed with board meetings and legal consultations. The time she spent with James and Lily dwindled as she fought to maintain control of her company. James watched the news reports with a growing sense of guilt, wondering if her life would be simpler without them in it. When she finally emerged victorious, having secured the board's confidence and effectively sidelined her brother, she appeared at James's door unannounced, looking exhausted but triumphant. "It's over," she said simply. "I won." He pulled her into a hug before he could overthink it, feeling her melt against him with relief. "I never doubted you would." "Liar," she murmured against his chest. "You've been worried sick. I could hear it in your voice every time we talked." "Not about you winning," he clarified, pulling back to look at her. "About whether we were worth all this trouble." Her expression softened. "James Parker, you and Lily are the only things in my life that don't feel like trouble. Everything else, the company, the board, the press, that's the complicated part. You two are the simplest, most natural thing I've ever known." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. James felt something shift in that moment, a barrier breaking down. Before he could respond, Lily came bounding into the room, launching herself at Eliza with a squeal of delight. "You're back. Daddy said you were fighting dragons at your work." Eliza laughed, lifting Lily into a hug. "Very corporate dragons, but yes. And guess what? I won." "I knew you would," Lily said with absolute confidence. "You're the strongest person I know, except maybe Daddy." Over Lily's head, their eyes met, and James saw in Eliza's gaze a future he hadn't dared to imagine, one where the three of them might become a family. But doubts still plagued him. The world would always see them as mismatched. He would always be the single dad who caught the attention of a billionaire, never quite her equal in society's eyes. And what about Lily? Would she be thrust into a spotlight she never asked for, scrutinized and judged because of Eliza's status? These fears came to a head the night of the storm, 3 months after Eliza first walked into Rosie's diner. She had been away on business for a week, the longest they'd been apart since meeting. When she called to say she was back in town, James invited her for dinner at their apartment. The evening had been perfect. Lily was overjoyed to see Eliza, proudly showing off the science project they'd been working on in her absence. They ate James's homemade lasagna, played board games, and fell into the comfortable rhythm they'd established over the months. After Lily went to bed, they sat on the couch talking, Eliza describing her business trip while James told her about the garage he'd found for sale, a small place, but with potential, if he could ever save enough for a down payment. "I could help with that," Eliza offered cautiously, knowing his pride. "An investment, not a gift." James tensed. "I can't take your money, Eliza." "Why not?" "I invest in businesses all the time. Because it changes things between us." "Does it? Or are you just afraid of what it might mean if you let me be part of your future that way?" The question hit too close to home. James stood abruptly, moving to the window where rain had begun to fall. "It's getting late. Maybe we should call it a night." Eliza remained seated, studying him. "You're pushing me away again." "I'm being realistic," he countered. "We come from different worlds, Eliza. And yet here we are, in the same room, wanting the same things. Are we?" He turned to face her. "What exactly do you want from this, from us?" She stood then, moving to stand before him. "Everything," she said simply. "I want Saturday mornings with pancakes and Sunday afternoons at the park. I want to help Lily with her homework and argue with you about which movies to watch. I want to fall asleep beside you and wake up the same way." Her voice softened. "I want a family, James. With you and Lily." The raw honesty in her voice stripped away his defenses. He reached for her hand, drawing her closer. "I want that too," he admitted. "But I'm terrified of what it means. For all of us." Outside, the storm intensified, rain lashing against the windows as thunder rumbled in the distance. Eliza should have been leaving, the weather was only going to worsen.